What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Game, your one source for everything cool in video games. Now, typically we start the show off by explaining what's going on this week in this week's episode, but we have something a little bit more pressing. Our good friend Scot Savage has actually been in an accident and won't be on the show for a while. We have two ways to contact Scott and show him all of our support and love. You can do that by hitting him up on Twitter at _Savage. Hashtag it ITG, wish him well and a quick recovery, and of course we'll make sure he sees all this. And you can also go to a GoFundMe page. Scott's in a long road ahead of him for recovery, and we want to be able to support him in any way possible. So if you were catching this on YouTube, then I will have a link in the description box below that you can go to help support him. Or if you're catching this on our television networks, I encourage you to go to insidethegame.ca, where there we will have a link as well. So Scott, this episode's for you. If you're a fan of the Old West like I am, then you've probably been playing Red Dead Online right now and experiencing a few bugs. We've seen the Naturalist update come out, and with it has been a whole sort of problems. Rockstar had a little bit to say, but not too much. Over on Rockstar's support page on their website, they had this to say: "We are aware some players may currently be experiencing a range of issues, including connection problems, low animal spawn counts, difficulty pitching camps, entering moonshine shacks, and others. We are currently developing fixes to address these and will share more information as it is available. We've been having problems for a while. The fact that I haven't been able to pitch a camp in months has been a major concern, to the point where it actually stopped me from playing the game. Well, then we've seen updates come out and the camp actually worked. But then the Naturalist came out, the ability to go out and hunt specialized items, animals, and get gear, loot, and everything we want to do in the Old West just unfortunately isn't working right now, to the point where my horse turned into a blinking horse. I kid you not, it just flashed on screen."
I feel like it's been a while since we've talked about Fortnite, and it's definitely, maybe fallen in our back burners, but it's definitely still a huge game with a huge audience, and we're getting some interesting news. The Fortnite Mega Drop is happening right now, and that means V-Buck prices are going down 20%. That's right, over all platforms. There's just a catch. If you're on phone, so if you have iOS or Android device, there's going to be an option upon purchase that you can select either Apple or Google's payment options respectively, or Epic Direct Payment, which will actually be 20% cheaper than choosing the Apple or Google option. So I think that's really interesting that Epic Games is kind of throwing this punch at Apple and Google, since they've kind of been battling over this for a little while. So it's nice to see that Epic Games is taking kind of the approach of helping out the player base and saying, hey, you know what, everything that they've done for Epic Games, now Epic Games is giving back and saying we're going to drop prices on all V-Bucks. And right now it is considered a permanent price drop. It's not a limited time sale or anything, and you can get it on all platforms. So, I mean, if there's a time to jump back into Fortnite, it might be now.
If The Last of Us Part 2 isn't difficult enough, they're amping it up again, bringing grounded and permadeath. The new difficulty raises the stakes by not only making enemies deadlier and ammo, upgrade, and crafting materials incredibly scarce, but also removing invaluable tools for survival, such as disabling listening mode, deactivating elements of the hub, and more. Beginning with the update, Grounded will become one of the base difficulty options available when starting the story, so you won't need to beat the game and then start it all over again. And Naughty Dog is also introducing a brand new mode, Permadeath. With this custom mode enabled, there are no second chances. You must complete the entire game without dying or start over from the beginning. However, if you find that too daunting, you can choose to enable permadeath mode with checkpoints or per chapter or per act basis. In other words, if you die at the end of day 1, you'll have to play the entire day all over again. While the difficulty options and permadeath isn't enough, they're also adding new fixes, new graphical upgrades and options, and a whole 8-bit mode as well. That sounds pretty cool. And you can even play the game entirely in cell shaded. Man, that's my style. I gotta check it out.
As is with most next generation talk, we definitely get a ton of rumors and speculations. And I want to focus on the Xbox, and officially the Xbox Series S. Yes, that's right. We've got some supporting pictures of some Xbox controller packaging that shows Xbox Series X/S. So it's actually our first official kind of confirmation that we're going to be getting an Xbox Series S. I think everybody thought we were going to get some version of it, whether it was going to be called that or not, but it's actually nice to see. It's nice to see a next gen, package for a controller, a white controller, robot white, and it actually has that Xbox Series S on the back, which is pretty cool because I think a lot of people are going to fit into this Xbox Series S. They're going to want to jump in at the price point because it is going to be a little bit lower, I'd imagine, than the base console. And I just think it's a really good idea for Microsoft to do this. They're going to offer a lot more people into this world, especially now with xCloud and Game Pass Ultimate. I think there's just so many things you can, take advantage of with Microsoft and what Xbox offers. Then when you're gonna be able to jump in at a lower price point, it's just, what's that price gonna be? That's gonna be the hook.
We were all looking forward to playing Cyberpunk 2077 in September, but with the delay being pushed over to November 19th, we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. But if you're looking for a little bit more Cyberpunk content, they also have a comic book coming out. Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team spins the story of Nadia, a citizen of Night City and the sole survivor of a gone wrong Trauma Team international rescue mission. When she agrees to continue working for the corporation and takes on an upcoming extraction mission, Nadia and her team soon find themselves in an even more dangerous and life-threatening situation and discover Trauma Team is not what it seems. So if you're looking to read up on a little Cyberpunk, look for that on September 9th, and it can only be found on Dark Horse Direct.
So recently the guys and myself checked out the Avengers beta on PlayStation 4, and over the past couple weekends they've been having closed betas on PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox One. Well, this weekend coming up, we're going to be getting an open beta across all platforms, so there's going to be a ton of people jumping in to check this one out. Well, the Avengers official Twitter account came out and said that they're going to be giving out a stream overlay that you can download now, so you can have this overlay up when you're streaming the game next weekend. I think it looks awesome, it totally fits the style of the game, and it's not necessarily something we asked for, but I think it's a nice little bonus for people that do want to stream this game because it just kind of adds to the whole look and presentation that Avengers already kind of gives out, because this game certainly does play out like the movies.
If you were looking to jump into Fortnite on your iOS device, you may be encountering some issues. That's because Apple has taken it down from the Play Store and is no longer available. Apple states that Epic, one of the biggest companies around, have violated some of their regulations and therefore have removed it from the Apple Store. Epic Games took the unfortunate step of violating the Apple Store guidelines that are applied equally to every developer and designed to keep the store safe for our users. This was sent in an email to CNN Business. As a result, their Fortnite app has been removed from the store. Well, Epic doesn't really like that and had a little something else to say of their own and are actually suing Apple. Apple's removal of Fortnite is yet another example of Apple flexing its enormous power in order to impose unreasonable restraints and unlawfully maintain its 100% monopoly over the iOS app payment processing market. Currently, when a purchase is made on the Apple Store, 30% of the fee is given to Apple. Well, with an update came out, Epic actually reduced payments for 20%. The way around that was you get through the Epic format, and that's how they're getting paid, and they're bypassing the Apple Store. So there's a huge lawsuit now in place as Epic is suing Apple. How this is going to play out, I don't know, but here's Epic with one heck of a trailer and a shot at Apple. Check this out.
Today, we celebrate the anniversary of the
right, Scott, grab your boards. We're hitting the slopes. Scott, it may be summertime, but we're hitting the slopes in Alto's collection. The first game had us going in Alto's Adventure, where we actually hit the slopes in snow, and then Odyssey Part 2, more or less, was hitting it in the desert. Two different games, more or less the same though. And then from there, we just hit A.
Yeah, it's a very simple game. It's one of those one-button games, but it really works.
It's obviously really easy to get into, and it's just a matter of when you time your backflip within just seconds of either messing up the entire thing or landing it. And when you land it with that just minute second and you continue on, and then you get this kind of bit of a shield that goes up around you and allows you to burst through some rocks. It is cool. And the idea really is to see how far you can push yourself to keep going forward. And that's where I got hooked, is to see. And then eventually, actually, you were on screen as well, because you hadn't gone as far, but now you've actually just kind of blown me out of the water. But it is nice to have that friend kind of chasing leaderboard scenario in there as well. Super chill game, and it's just addicting, to be honest.
There's a little bit of this depth to it as well. It's casual and calm on the surface, but later on, if you get like 10 kilometers into this track, it starts getting really, really fast, and there's a lot of different obstacles that come up. So there is, you know, a little bit of a skill shelf to it, and there are challenges that present to you along the way as well. So you're always given kind of this task to do during your run, 3 of them specifically, and then you move on to the next level. Well, every 10 levels or so, you unlock a new character, and that character just has a slightly different set of stats, I guess. Then you press A and it flips faster.
But they're slower to accumulate speed, right? So there are a couple different things in how they actually use the progression to get further in the game. I thought it was a nice touch. And the fact that we can also get in there and use upgrades at the same time, Scott, was pretty cool as you collect these coins.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff to spend those coins on. You can kind of just get these ranging upgrades to your pickups, or you can get this like wingsuit ability, and that wingsuit lets you fly through the air and extends your jump much longer and further. It kind of changes the game and makes it way more fast-paced at that point. The pickups I mentioned are like these magnet things that help you pick up more coins, or just this hoverboard ability, or a lotus flower in Odyssey that keeps you alive even if you do hit some sort of object.
Touch briefly on Odyssey. So the Adventure is part 1, Odyssey being part 2. What do you think of moving forward into the winter scene, into a desert scenario, and then actually coming across some vines as you get further, and then you get a sandboard, and it actually lets you kind of clip onto walls and jump off of walls too. I thought it was a nice little addition. Not a lot to change from one game to the next, but just little perks here or there.
Yeah, it seems it's very mobile friendly, and this game is actually available on mobile as well, for both sides of the mobile consumer market, and you can definitely see that influence here. So it seems like just another kind of iteration, a new flavor on the original game. It's really not too terribly different, but it does kind of freshen up the environment. It's a lot of hot air balloons, and the levels are kind of situated a little differently. The cartoon style, you know, more so resembles like a Prince of Persia kind of background, whereas the Alto's Adventure version is just a kind of Yeti mountain kind of thing. An important thing to note in a game like this is the audio track that is accompanying it. I found in Alto's Adventure, it's kind of this like high-strung piano noise. It's not very relaxing to me. It kind of stressed me out a little bit. And then when you do inevitably crash, it just kind of stops dead. It's a very dull like ending to the song. But in Alto's Odyssey, I found the music to be much more enjoyable, and the audio and stuff was more calming, and I could take that game a little more carefully. But we've talked enough about this little simple concept. What do you think of this game?
Overall, you know, my time was addicting to get into that. It's so simple, right? But there's not a lot to the game overall. As you kind of venture your way through, and the more levels you gear up for and stuff is a great time. But it's kind of overall, it feels like a mobile game, and that's not a bad thing either. It's simple, it's relaxing, it allows you to get in and get out, and I'm there with a 7.
Yep, I have to agree with that. Basically for the same reason. It's a mobile game brought over to the Xbox, but that's not a slight, and in today's world, that's a game for somebody. It's nice and casual, but you can get deeper and spend more time. I'm also giving this one a 7. A simple yet satisfying concept, jump and flip for as long as you can with one button.
All right, Corey, right now, let's try escaping some of those dreams. Corey, you and I jumped into an early access look at Dreamscaper. This is a unique roguelike we're kind of experiencing here, and it's got a couple aspects that you and I are really kind of drawn into with a lot of games we're checking out lately, dude. I gotta kick it off right with the art style itself. It's so cool, man. Like, I love the art direction that they've taken with the game. There are no actual faces, right? It's just kind of got this silhouette of a face, but yet it's still got this unique cel-shaded, almost-esque look and feel to the game. And the way the game is told is basically Cassidy is in her hometown, and she kind of goes out in one world, in a reality world, and talks to people and searches for things and gives them gifts. And you know, you got this conversation tree that kind of goes about, but when you go home and fall asleep is when you get into the dreamscape, and that's when things really start to heat up. And then you get into your roguelite experience, and you're out there traveling and fighting off bosses and traveling through the world and stuff. Dude, I was hooked the minute I started playing this game. How are you checking out this one?
Well, you know what? I'm going to say I was completely surprised by this one because I didn't really know anything about coming into it. You just said you got to check this game out. So, again, I started up and I'm like, okay, I see why Drew told me to check it out. This game looks like it looks awesome. It just, the art style, it just fits this feel for this game because it has this audio track throughout the entire game that is just so kind of like chill, and I don't know, the whole experience was just very relaxing. But there's a ton of action in this game because when you, like you said, fall asleep, you get into this dreamscape world, and we basically go from room to room fighting enemies. There's puzzles along the way that you unlock, which I actually thought was pretty cool. There's kind of like a minesweeper type puzzle. Like there's you know, just every room had something different. And the big thing I liked is as you start going through these rooms, the more rooms you open and discover, if you click in that left stick, you can fast travel back to any room, so you don't have to keep backtracking from room to room, which these games are notorious for. So being able to have that ability to like quickly just go from like one room and 8 tiles over to the next room that maybe you had to drop some health that you didn't need at the time, but now you need it, like that's super handy in a game like this where you get around. So I don't know, I just like this one just had so many cool features because you're out in this dreamscape world, and I feel like every room there's an opportunity for, you know, you're unlocking almost something new to add to your character, whether it's a weapon or an ability. So there's a lot of really cool kind of just features in this game that kind of make it its own.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I've always felt rewarded when I was going out. I didn't feel like I just went out and wasted my time. And often with these roguelikes, you go out and then you die, and then you feel like you almost got screwed in a sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I didn't feel that here. Like, yeah, I died once or twice and stuff, but I still felt okay with the position I was in. And the dev team right off the hop already stated that they're constantly doing updates because it is in early access, right? So the game's not completely finished. So you can kind of be aware of bugs, but overall, dude, I didn't see a bug at all. I had no issues whatsoever. I'm waiting for the next update to come through because, dude, the game had me hooked. It was so enjoyable, so much fun, and the combat I thought was great. It was intuitive, responsive to everything I was doing. And again, the best part about it is I didn't feel screwed over. And that's something I feel a lot with playing the roguelikes. And I get that that's the style in a sense as well. So when you get out there, you always get to come back to home base and level up and then venture out again. But I still felt like there was enough reason for me to, when I do go back to home base, to venture back out. And then the play on both worlds too, right? The dreamscape and then the world of reality, to go out to the bar, venture into the bar, and you have a conversation with the bartender, and then you're going over to the bookstore, and then you're going over to the cafe. Like, dude, it was so surprising when I jumped in the game. The game already caught me by surprise instantly with the art style, and like that was right there the draw for me. And then of course I'm like, dude, you gotta play this game. But then from there to actually get into it, I was like, wow, you know what, just thank you to the devs for creating this game, because it is so cool. I cannot wait to see when it's actually finished, because right now what we're dealing with is just it's just awesome. Like, there's nothing bad to say. And in early access, you wait for these bugs. And that's why I said, dude, I haven't found a bug. I don't have any issues. I don't have any complaints.
No.
So for me, I'm in.
You know what? I'm there with you, Drew. I really didn't have any complaints about this game. Again, the only thing you could maybe complain about in this game is early on, maybe some of the enemies feel slightly repetitive, because early on when you're getting the feel for the game, you tend to play the first couple levels over and over again, trial and error style. But the thing that really mixes it up for me was the amount of different kind of weapons that you get. Some of the ones you start off with, some of the ones you unlock as you go through. Like, there's just so many different combinations, and that's what really kind of set it apart for me. Because when you wake up and, like you said, you go out into this, your reality, and you interact with other people, there's kind of goals here. You only have so much time, and everything's based on 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and so you only, at most, I've had up to 3 extra hours to kind of work with, talking to these people. And the idea is the better you get to know them, the opportunity you get to unlock something new that you will then be able to find once you get into the dreamscape. So it's all connected, right? And you can look at your journal back in your bedroom, and that gives you a bunch of information of what you've already unlocked, things you can craft, i.e. gifts for the people that you can give them. So there's all these like different little weird things that you wouldn't have expected in a game like this, that are so outside of just what you're doing inside the dreamscape, that I don't know, as an encompassing experience, this was just an awesome game.
No, for sure. Overall, Corey, I think you and I absolutely love the game. I know I wasn't holding back on how I felt about it. The devs touched on the fact that it is a controller experience if you really wanted it to be. And I think that's how both of us played it. You did try it with the mouse and keyboard, and then gravitated towards the controller. It fits so well. So I can see this starting on PC, but yet coming into console. And overall, my time with the game has been a blast. This is, again, early access, so I can't wait to see what's in the future of this one. So definitely, you need to check out Dreamscaper.
Nice. Dreamscaper's beautiful art style and soundtrack is definitely going to be what draws you in, but the combat mechanics are solid, and the weapon and ability variety just seems endless in this one. Honestly, Drew and I can't help but recommend this one.
Alright, Scotty, this one's for you. Drew and I are taking on a Souls-like with Mortal Shell.
Nate, like you said, we're doing this one for Scott. We're covering Mortal Shell. This is not typically what I play. This is not my genre. The Demon Souls-like whole genre has grown into something now that's pretty magical, and for most part of the time, kind of throws me off a bit. The fact that I go out and face enemies that more or less just demoralize myself and just beat me right down to nothing, and then have to start all over and do it again. As I said, not my forte. But for some reason, Mortal Shell hooked me. Like, I was really surprised at how much I was actually enjoying the punishment, if that makes any sense. Like, it's kind of weird because I don't like these games at all, typically. But for this one, dude, I like the atmosphere, I like the character, and I like the idea of this Mortal Shell. How was your time with the game, Nate?
Oh, man. I have a tough time with these types of games, much like you.
Yeah.
But this game, it really gravitated towards me. The feel from the get-go of the game, it's very dark.
Yep.
And, the whole premise of, how you obtain armor and weapons in the game. It's not just like you go out and then you die and then you respawn at the checkpoint. There's this concept where you're like this creature, and then you have to find these different corpses or dead bodies of different knights or soldiers.
Yep.
And then you actually consume them and then take on that body. And that's kind of how the RPG system, I guess, sort of takes place. All these different characters, they all have different shells, and they have different variants in stats. So there's only really 3 stats. You're looking at stamina, health, and duration. So one of the first characters I actually found off the get-go had a higher resolve meter, which actually means that you can parry often. And this whole parry thing, it actually brings this sort of cool element where when you parry, you actually have the option to strike back and do like a huge heavy attack healing blow towards yourself. So it's kind of cool. If you have the high resolve, you have all these, you have multiple, like up to 8 different bars available for you. So anyways, I thought it was really cool. You're not just looking out for rusty armor, your next set of armor, or upgrading it in that way. It's kind of just like you have to go out and find these different shells, they're called.
I don't pick these games as a regular to play, but for this one, I was able to get into it, and because most times they don't connect with me, and for some reason Mortal Shell really did. I was able to, even though I was getting punished, go out, I would take a path, and then that wouldn't work, so then I take another path, and then, well, that wouldn't work, and then I take another path, but at the same time, I'm learning the game as I go too, right? When to parry, when to use your shell too, because you have this encasement, right? That it almost acts like that counter attack. So it stuns them for a second and lets you react to them, which is so cool. And I thought that everything was so rustic looking, and the environment itself, it had its own kind of world and story to tell behind it. So I thought it was so interesting. I think that's what really kind of kept me going, even though I was getting punished, and that's again not what I like to do at all, because when I like to play a game, I want to see the progression. And this time, though I didn't really get the progression I normally approve of or try to go for, I was able still to get some satisfaction of going out, looking around the area, finding new enemy types, and some of the creatures' designs as well. Like, man, I had this one giant wolf thing that attacked me. He absolutely demolished me. But it was awesome, though, to see the character design and the models that they have implemented into the game. And the fact that the game is only $30 is such a selling feature. If you're not a big Souls-like person, I'd still give this one a chance. It is punishing, obviously. It's that type of game that will put you right back to the start, and I think that's my biggest struggle with the games like this, is that you go right back to the very beginning just to do it all over again. But then you find mushrooms and these other abilities and little things you go out and explore, but everything just has this rustic art style to it. It was so cool. Nate, dude, I love the game. Like, honestly, I really did love the game. It really got me, man. I was more impressed than I expected to be.
Yeah, man, me too. Like you said, for $30, it's astonishing the package you get. Now, we have to keep in mind there are some, graphical issues at times.
Sure. Yep.
Maybe some audio issues. But, I mean, that's kind of to be expected with not even a half of a normal price game. So, still, that to say, I still think the audio is pretty spot on as far as, like, the sound effects go. Now, there isn't a lot of, there isn't this deep soundtrack that you sometimes get with these games.
Sure.
But there's just this ambience that really kind of plays well with the setting.
Just enough to heal me. Perhaps you too can use it to free yourself from this wretched land before you end up like me.
I'll quickly kind of touch up on the upgrading system. Now, there is one. Each shell that you obtain, there's a variety of different upgrades that you can pick from. Now, they require 2 different types of currencies. You're looking at tar, which is your basic experience. You get them from killing just regular mooks around the game.
Oh.
And then there's also glimpse. Now, these you have to obtain from consuming different things throughout the map. And to kind of give you an idea, like some upgrades would be like 5,000 tar and then like 10 or 20 glimpse. And kind of a nice thing to keep in mind is when you die in this game, you lose all your tar, so all your experience goes away, but you keep all your glimpse. So you kind of want to make sure that you always are on top of your consumables, using those things so that if you do die and you lose all of your items, that it's not as big of a deal, because you can just go and hopefully get back your experience and only lose it on maybe that if you don't.
Nate, I think honestly my time with Mortal Shell was a bit of a surprise. There were minor glitches, like when you're coming down a hill, sometimes you would feel that you're a little floaty, and then if you look at some of the enemies, they were above the ground. But again, we're talking like a $30 game, right? So yeah, there is a bit of polish that still needs to be acquired here, but it's very, very little. And the hook of finding another shell, and then the battle system, the parry, and then you're hardening your shell as well. It was really cool. For me, Mortal Shell gets a 7.5.
Nice, man. I'm actually a little bit higher than you. I really enjoyed my time with this game. I think the setting really drew me in, and the map design is incredibly well. How everything interconnects. It's a little bit confusing at first, but once you finally kind of wrap your mind around it, it is incredible what these guys have accomplished. I'm going to give this one an 8.5.
Nice. Mortal Shell caught both of us by surprise. Addictive gameplay loop that had us on the edge of our seat, just searching for our next shell. You'll be back for more, if you can handle it.
Old saying, never meet your heroes. Well, I did. And it was awesome. The Avengers were everything I imagined.
Hello, San Francisco!
The Marvel Avengers game is just around the corner, guys, but we jumped into the beta, and though it was pretty cool, there was definitely some beta connection issues. Nate, how did the game go for you over that past weekend?
Well, man, I had a pretty good time with it. I thought the overall look of the game, wow, it looks like, it's one of the last games of the current generation. It is probably one of the best looking games. Mm-hmm. Even on the loading screen, when you're just looking at the Hulk or
Super
Thor,
cool.
and they just get a zoom in close up on his face, you can see everything. And I'm just playing on an Xbox One, we were playing on the PS4, and I wasn't playing on the Pro, so I didn't have that extra detail, but it still looked astounding. But what did you think, Corey?
Well, you know what, Nate? That's definitely what drew me in, like, right from the get-go. This has been a highly anticipated game, so being able to hop into this beta was a pretty awesome experience because this plays out kind of like a movie, or it feels like you're watching an animated version of the Avengers, right? Like, it's just the way, it's very cinematic the way it plays out, so it's just, I really liked jumping into this one because the way they kind of get you through the tutorial is kind of you get to test out everybody, but kind of in one giant long action sequence. And for me, like, that's the experience you want to have, especially when you're testing out a game kind of that's been hyped up this much. And it's just, it's at that level where it definitely was enjoyable jumping in. But kind of like you said, Drew, there's some connection issues when you go kind of past the tutorial. Do you want to kind of get into that?
Yeah, absolutely. We made it past the tutorial, and then I connected with my brother online and a couple buddies. And honestly, it was sitting there for probably a good half hour trying to connect and party up. And it was just one nightmare after another. Now, obviously, this is a beta, and we're trying to get into that. But the biggest part about the game is after you're done the single-player content, you hit the war table, and you can go out and group up, right? And you can do co-op and have a great time. And you want to go out, loot, get your gear, but you want to do that with friends. You don't want to be out there by yourself the entire time. Like you just said, Corey, the action sequence made it, dude, I felt like I was playing a Marvel movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that Avengers opening sequence of, the introductions to everybody was so short, though. I was like, okay, now I'm on to Cap. Well, how does he work? And then now I'm on to Black Widow, and how does she work? And I was just like, man, you get a small taste, and then it's over. I was like,
compressed.
It's a beta.
Yeah. But I think that's actually part of the game too, right? Is the fact that their tutorial is just so short. It's there to tease you with all the characters, but then after it's all said and done, you don't get Cap, you don't get Thor for the beta anyways, right? Apparently Cap has passed away. That's yet to be actually seen. However, as we played through the game, the combat to me I thought was cool. There were parts, though, even in the beta, I'm like, I get it's a beta, but at the same time, it makes me nervous moving forward how repetitive this is being around the war table. You're going to go out and do harm missions. Harm is kind of like, almost like a tutorial in a sense, too. Helps you go into this war room and you fight and learn your maneuvers and your tactics and things like that. And there are going to be challenges set towards that. And if that's the case moving forward with the game, it has me a little worried because I don't want to be there the entire time, just in a tutorial setup, fighting just waves and waves of enemies, where I'd rather be out there the entire time with friends, with you guys, with my brother, and just having a good time leveling up Thor or Hulk. And I think that's really where the gameplay shines, but at the same time, it has me nervous that every time we set out, it's just going to be repetitive.
Yeah, I can see your fear with that. We'll have to definitely see more as we hopefully get I think we get another beta actually soon.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll get more content. Probably not. It'll probably just have, some bug fixes and stuff like that, so you can actually connect with each other.
Oh, man.
But, let's kind of talk about the armor system, because as you're, traversing these missions and exploring, so to speak, you can actually pick up like loot boxes. It was pretty funny when you're the Hulk. You actually you're like ooh, and you kick it open.
It just kicks it open.
And then and then you actually get there's I think 4 things that you can customize on your character. It's like your weapon slot, your armor slot, and then 2 other slots. So it seems pretty cool. I was kind of happy to see an RPG system kind of implemented into this. What did you think, Corey?
Well, actually, Nate and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I like the layout of the menus. I think, everything's there for you, but the thing that caught me off guard at first was the cursor. Okay.
Yeah, classic.
And I get you can use the D-pad, but the D-pad wasn't as intuitive as you wanted it to be. Like, if I was selecting an item, one of my armor items, and I got something new, you can hold L2 and it'll just give you everything new, give you the best armor, whatever you've got that's higher, it'll equip it. That isn't necessarily how you always want to customize your builds with these characters, right? Sometimes early levels, I can see you just get a higher piece of equipment, toss it on, right?
Yeah.
But when that was kind of one of those hang-ups where I was like, really? Like, this is where it's going to hang up for me in this game, is going to be, traversing this menu system, which isn't, like I said, the menu isn't, confusing. It's laid out fairly well. It's just kind of that weird little hiccup with this cursor, and it's like, get this thing off my screen. I don't, you know what I mean? So it was something silly like that kind of caught me. But I did really enjoy when we got to play as all these characters, actually kind of seeing how they implement some of their abilities, because I had to do a little camera angle work. I zoomed my camera out a little bit because I thought the default was maybe in a little too tight, especially when you're fighting multiple enemies. So I was actually able to zoom the camera out slightly in that view, so it gave me a better kind of field of range, I guess, moving around, especially when you're the Hulk, because he takes up the whole screen. But like, again, like, everything feels so kind of movie production quality, especially when it comes to the action in this game. And I just couldn't stop smiling every time something blew up, or, you know, when you're the Hulk, you just get to grab a giant piece of steel off the ground and huck it at something. Like, it's just it really puts you in that feeling like you are, you know, part of the Avengers, as, you know, cliche as that sounds.
No, absolutely.
And I found a lot of people were kind of worried about the direction that they chose with, you know, the characters, just because we have all the movies that most people like. I love the movies, and I love Thor and Captain America. So it was, honestly, for me at first, I was a little worried, because I'm like, am I going to be able to have the same attachment to these characters? I know it's still Captain America, but it's, you know, it's not the same guy. But anyways, I actually really liked what they did. Like you said in that introduction video, it was a little short with each of the characters, but it just felt like I was watching a Marvel movie.
No, absolutely. And I thought the voiceover, you know, I got used to
perfect.
it. But it's funny, if you followed some of these actors like Troy Baker or Nolan North, you're like, ooh, there's Nolan. Oh, there's Troy. And you're kind of like, man, Troy, Bruce, okay. And but you get used to it after a while, right? So it falls into place. But part of me is sitting there going, there's Drake from Uncharted. Nope, that's actually Iron Man. So, you know, you kind of get this relationship that you follow these voice actors for so long, and then to have them implemented into other games and take the roles of some of these iconic heroes, it's just so cool to see. And then the experience, and like, my brother was all in for Iron Man, and I went right to Black Widow. And by the time we were done for the beta, like, I was up to level 26, I think, for power level and stuff.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I was in there and I was grinding. It was cool, right? Like, that's how much it hooked me already. But I did have those concerns of, like, how much longer is this gonna have that mentality to be able to keep me coming back for more loot? And when you do get the gear, none of our gear changed, right? That was the other thing. I want my gear to change. It needs to have that appearance effect for me to really stick around and not just level up my hero.
Yeah, you know, it's Anthem-esque. I don't want to say it, but it is. All right. Yeah. It's got that same feel where it's just like, this game feels good. The combat's good. Like, it's fun to play with other people. But how much content are you gonna give me to keep me going in this game after I'm done the main story? And hopefully, if they've even heard of a game called Anthem, they've maybe looked and seen what they
got a roadmap
moving forward. You know what I mean? So it's just it is shades of a game like that, where it feels very similar in the way that it's laid out. I'm just hoping that, you know, I feel like I don't know, Anthem had a lot of money behind it too, but I really hope that these guys can learn from mistakes like that and see that, you know, as long as you keep up a game of service like this and just keep updating it, you can have a game that lasts 4 or 5 years before people truly move on, right? So there's an opportunity here for them.
All in all, guys, I had a great time in the beta. It was short-lived over the weekend and stuff, but however, you know, it kind of gets us prepped up and a short experience of what we're going to get for the game. And I'm happy to see what I have. They just got to fix some of these connection issues and some of the bugs that we were experiencing. Like, I had Hulk kind of fall halfway through the wall or through the floor, and his arms are up, his feet are gone, you know? So there's definitely some polish that's needed, but if they can do that, man, we got one heck of a game. What do you think in there, Nate?
Well, man, I was going to say, actually, I love the Hulk, man. He was one of my favorite cartoon characters growing up, so being able to play as him and like the way they made him, I'm stoked to see what this game has for us in the fall. And I don't know, man, I can't wait just to see all the superheroes and just some more missions. And what about you, Corey?
Well, we know how big the Marvel Universe can be, so I think that's really what they're going to have in their back pocket here, is there's just so many characters you could add into a game like this. So I think the sky's the limit for this game. First impressions, I think, are on the above average side for me. I really got hooked in the way the game plays. I think the beta wrinkles and issues we're having are just beta issues. I think hopefully come launch they will be smoother. I know we'll always have issues, but game-breaking issues, I don't see it necessarily for this game, at least right away, hopefully. Fingers crossed. I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I think Corey summed it up with saying Marvel's Avengers, sky's the limit.
All right, Nate, make sure you bring your reading glasses for this one. We're checking out The Revenant Prince. This week we're checking out The Revenant Prince from Indonesian Nomina Games. This is kind of this Zelda-like RPG style game. What did you think jumping into this one, Nate?
Well, buddy, kind of like you said in the intro, you gotta get prepared to read a lot. There are no voiceovers in this game, and the way the game kind of flows is that there's really massive segments of dialogue, where it'll be one character talking in 1 to 2 lines at a time, and then maybe it'll pan over to the next character. And also it has this kind of mix with an anime style while presenting it, which I thought was pretty cool. But nonetheless, dude, it just stretched out a little too long.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. That's why I definitely brought the intro in like that, because I was kind of overwhelmed with the amount of reading I had to do in this game. But at the same time, I kind of understand why there is so much reading, because we have a pretty thick storyline here. We're following Troy throughout this entire kind of adventure, and there's a lot of like really interesting characters in this game. We have humans, we've got animals, we've got monsters and creatures, and like you can interact with all these characters, and it's like it's a lot of fun and it's really interesting, but there's a lot of information to take in here. Like the story itself is very involved, and then the game asks you to do a lot of talking. You go around and talk to basically everybody you run into, you talk to, and everybody's got something to say, and it just feels like you're just walking and talking, and there isn't nearly enough action, at least for some of the games that I'm used to. So I'm going to try to reel it back here, because I think overall we do have a really good game here. It's just there are some hang-ups, and I have a hard time getting past some of the issues I had when I was playing this game.
Kind of like I mentioned earlier, dude, it's the flow of the game. At the very beginning, they really dive into the story, and there's just so much dialogue and no real battle. Like, you do this kind of tutorial-like battle, but this is all within the first hour of the game. You maybe do one tutorial-style battle. So that's honestly my biggest knock on the game, is just the flow. But moving forward, the combat I thought was pretty cool. It's unique. It's this sort of real-time Final Fantasy style, like Final Fantasy VII, that kind of I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah,
it's unique.
Very
I haven't
unique.
Actually seen anything like it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely a very unique kind of fighting style. It's this turn-based, but not turn-based, real-time kind of action RPG style battle, and basically where we have a menu to choose from. We have items, we have assists from teammates if we do happen to have a teammate following us around for that particular part of the story, which I thought was a kind of a cool little addition. But again, we have the Q, W, and E buttons that are kind of our attack buttons depending on what weapons we have, and it's kind of like a light attack, heavy attack, and so there's some cool aspects there. And the fact that you can carry multiple weapons and switch between your weapons mid-battle, I thought was really cool. This is the addicting part of the game for me. I think as I went on, the more battles I got into, I started to really kind of really feel it. You know what I mean? Like, you get the feel for this kind of unique battle style. And the thing I did like is that early in the game, they do kind of during the tutorial, they do a quick description of how to make it kind of easier for you as you're traveling around the environment, because you will just run into enemies that kind of just appear, by the way, which is, it's pretty seamless. Like, you're not going into a huge menu. You press E, you know, down or up on the arrow keys, enter, and you're done. It was, you know, I think it's a really simple thing to implement into a game like this, but it does change the experience quite a bit.
So talking about the story, man, that's again where this game really excels in my opinion, because they did something really unique here. Although you do have to explore everything, because there is not a lot of direction in this game, which is kind of one of the weaker points, I guess, in my opinion. But I guess that's kind of the style that they're going for, is that you do need to talk to mostly everyone and, you know, explore all the areas and obtain items. So what did you think of the story, though?
Well, again, like you said, it is a bit of a unique story. We start off in kind of a very interesting environment at the beginning of the game, kind of the beginning of Troy's story. And we kind of wake up and we're greeted by a couple characters that we kind of stick with early on in the game here. And it's just, he's so confused. He's basically trying to figure out what's going on with him, why he is where he is. And all throughout this entire time, there's kind of these dialogue boxes that keep popping up that aren't necessarily ones that you're talking to, but they seem to be talking to you. So it's very confusing about what's going on. And as you kind of get through the first couple hours of the game, it actually starts to get even weirder, but at the same time a little more intriguing, because there's a lot of questions to be answered. And as Troy's story goes on, he starts to kind of meet these different characters in these different, I'm going to say, worlds. I don't want to give away too much, because like I said, it's almost hard to explain, but at the same time, it's so unique the way they kind of tell this story, because you start to see it from a couple different kind of angles. You did kind of touch on it. It is confusing, and that might be what could turn people away. But if you can get hooked into this story, and because they give you the option to skip through the dialogue, and let me tell you, you do get the urge to do it every once in a while. But what I found is if you do skip through too much, you're gonna actually miss some pretty pertinent information, and you'll end up wandering aimlessly because you won't know where to go, because there isn't a main story quest objective that just pops up every time you're done one part. You kind of have to discover the next kind of area or the next spot you need to be in, or meet someone somewhere. And so if you're not necessarily keeping up with the dialogue, you may find yourself getting lost in this one. All right, Nate, our time with the Revenant Prince is coming to an end. It was definitely a unique experience. If you had to throw a score at this game, what are you going to give it?
Well, man, it was a little bit tough for me at first, but now that I've really dove into this game, I really like the dark side of the story. I thought the gameplay and the battling was pretty unique and a fun twist. So I'm going to have to give this a 6.5. There was a little bit of dialogue kind of issues where the flow of the game was a little, not the way I think it should have gone. But anyways, all in all, 6.5 for me, man.
You know what? I'm right there with you, because I just had a tough time engaging in this story early on. It took 3-4 hours of play before it really started to hook me, before I got into a bunch of battles. But you know what, overall the art style is definitely what helped keep me into this one. I definitely liked it. The audio take was actually pretty good overall, nothing outstanding, but it definitely was up to par for this style of game. So I'm right there with you with a 6.5.
Nice.
With lots of dialogue in this one, it can be tough early on to kind of get past that hump. But if you can, there's lots of really awesome, unique features this game will reward you with.
Oh my gosh.
I got this. I don't know about you guys. I got it.
Yeah. Just jump the waterfall, cross the hot dog. Over there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Get out of the way. Get out of the way.
I'm on the right side. Yeah.
I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle. Oh no, don't.
Oh, no,
Oh, okay.
A hot dog just bumps you? Okay.
Yep.
Alright, I guess we're running through the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no.
Path
Oh,
of least resistance.
exactly. Oh no. Oh my goodness. Let me out. Let me out. Don't do. Oh man. Ah. Okay. So,
Oh,
there we go,
everybody's
there we
getting taken out.
go. Wow. Ooh. There's your big balls.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Oh, no. When you start slipping back.
Yes. All right.
Come on. Oh, dude, I was almost like first.
Oh, nice. Okay, there we go.
I swear, I was
I
almost
qualified.
first.
I qualified. That's all that matters. I made it.
Yeah.
Oh, get out of the way. I got eliminated.
Oh, Steve is out. Hey, I'm in.
I was close.
I'm in. Nate, you in?
Oh, no.
There's no A or B. What do I
Top
do?
the mountain first and grab the crown.
Oh.
It's the final. It is the final.
This
Yeah.
is it.
Okay.
Oh, dude, this is
Play
cool.
dirty.
All right. Dude, the music kind of reminds me of like Mario Kart when you first start.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Beep, beep.
All right, Nate. I'm next to you. Let's team NASCAR this.
Oh, you got balls.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, what's up? Heads
There's your
up.
big balls. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
they are. Oh, Scott steamrolled.
Who's got? Oh,
Oh man.
here we go.
All right.
Oh,
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh no. Oh, Scott. Uh-oh.
That's a nightmare when you
There
get
you
hit.
go. Yeah.
yeah.
Those things are tough.
You just get
Oh, somebody's
scrambled.
up there. Somebody's up there.
Oh,
Nice try. That's pretty
that's
fun,
cool.
man. That's funny.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good job. That'll wrap up this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Now, of course, you can also be a part of the show just like Crack Parsons did over at insidethegame.ca, where he submitted his clip of some Red Dead action. Check out the new roles. Here we go.